Hi YouTube, so today we are going to be replacing the water pump on a Dodge Sprinter, 2006 Dodge Sprinter. You may have a Mercedes-Benz, it's the same truck, Mercedes-Benz Dodge Sprinter. This is a 2500. It does have a diesel motor in it. And what we're going to do today is we're going to replace the water pump, which is down there behind the fan. You see, here's the fan. All right, and okay, so the fan clutch isn't moving. It's locked in there. Most likely we're going to need a fan clutch for this also, but we'll go ahead and replace that. Since we're tearing it all apart, we'll go ahead and replace that fan clutch too, because it's stuck. It should be moving freely. But yeah, anyway, we're going to replace that. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and do the water pump on this because it is leaking. You can see the moisture down there and all on the belts, and it's been losing antifreeze. You know, wet the belt is there. But you'll notice there's not much space there in order for you to get at it. All right, and in order to work on this thing, to get that off, you need to pull this fan off first. And of course you have a shroud here, and if you get the shroud off, you really don't have that much space. But you know, there's a couple different ways you can do it. You know, if you got small hands, you could probably get down in there and tackle that, but you know, don't mess your hands up. Go ahead and, you know, do it the easy way. All right, so we're going to proceed. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take off the grill. We're going to take out the front end of this vehicle. You'll need some Torx head screws, Torx head bits or sockets or whatever tool you have. It comes in a couple different ways. You can get like an Allen, another little, you know, little L Allen wrenches, or you know, you can get something nice like that or something like that. They also sell a kit. I picked this up the other day. That, you know, we'll have them in their own socket head, so you can just put it on your socket too. All right, so I'm not really going to go in deep on taking the front end off. It's pretty self-explanatory. You'll take here, that's a push pin, that. You want to get all into that. Here, so that we can get space into here. So let's get started. The first thing that we'll take off is this grill here. It's pretty easy to take that off. There's a push pin here, screw there, push pin there. Also, there's a little screw down in there. Yeah, I've already got that one loose. And then there's one on that side as well. Once you take that off, this whole piece will come off. It'll come forward. All right, and that'll give you access to the other pieces. All right, so let me get that off so you can see what it's going to look like once we get that off. All right, once you have that piece off there, you'll notice you'll need to get to the headlight. You'll need to remove the headlight so that you can get to the bolt here behind that. Okay, you don't want to break that tab off. So go ahead and remove your headlights. I'll do that next. And then we can remove this top cross member. Here is usually like a 10mm bolt. If you want to lift that up, just lift it up out of the way. Also get you, you know, there's going to be a lot of little bolts and stuff. If you don't have a lot of experience with doing something like this, what I recommend is like getting, you know, I can pretty much remember what I'm doing with. Like if you have a big project, what I recommend is getting like a box. Okay, like you see how this box is here. Look at that. All right, so this case is separated. So once I use all these bits, I'll keep this case, and like I can interchange. Like I'll put the first screws I take off there, second screws I take off there, third screws I take off there, etc., etc., etc. All right, so I separate them out. That makes it a lot easier when putting stuff back together. All right, so back to this. We're going to remove our headlights next, which are Torx screws here, and remove those. And there's a Torx screw there to remove the trim piece right there. See that trim piece there? You want to get that. That's just it's the same size Torx as the headlight. All right. So you pull that piece out first because you don't want to damage it. Get that first. That'll slide out. Then we'll probably have a bolt up under that as well. Same thing for the other side. Then once you get that loose, then we'll take off this top support. All right, once you have that piece off there, you'll notice you'll need to get to the headlight. You'll need to remove the headlight so that you can get to the bolt here behind that. Okay, you don't want to break that tab off. So go ahead and remove your headlights. I'll do that next. And then we can remove this top cross member. Here is usually like a 10mm bolt. If you want to lift that up, just lift it up out of the way. Also get you, there's going to be a lot of little bolts and stuff. If you don't have a lot of experience with doing something like this, what I recommend is like getting, I can pretty much remember where I'm doing it. Like if you have a big project, what I recommend is getting a box. Okay, like you see how this box is here. Look at that. All right, so this case is separated. So once I use all these bits, I'll keep this case and like I can interchange. Like I'll put the first screws I take off there, second screws I take off there, third screws I take off there, etc., etc., etc. All right, so I separate them out. That makes it a lot easier when putting stuff back together. All right, so back to this. We're going to remove our headlights next, which are torque screws here, and remove those. And there's a torque screw there to remove the trim piece right there. See that trim piece there? You want to get that. That's just it's the same size torques as the headlight. All right. So you pull that piece out first because you don't want to damage it. Get that first. That'll slide out. Then we'll probably have a bolt up under that as well. Same thing for the other side. Then once you get that loose, then we'll take off this top support. All right, so as you see, I tell you to take that bottom trim piece off there, and that way it'll give you access to the bottom torque screws. I'm currently using a T15 for these bottom screws. All right, so we'll get this screwed out. And be careful that you don't drop or lose these screws, because you will need them to put this back together as I speak. But we will be taking the bumper cover off, so I'll be able to get that screwed. That's no problem there. Kind of hard to video and film at the same time. Once you get all those screws out, you notice that light will just come loose. You'll want to go ahead and pull it forward, and there's a wiring connection down there. You can reach down there with your hand and disconnect that wiring connection. You see that right there? Okay, you can disconnect that right there, and that whole headlight assembly will come out. Same thing for this side. Take these bottom screws off there, and disconnect the wiring harness in the back, and then pull it forward. I'm going to go ahead and pull that forward, and that way we can go ahead and get to our top piece. I think I'll go ahead and take that off too. Let me get the torque size, and I'll give you the right size for that. All right, so this is a T47, these bolts here. That's the top support. There's 2 on that side, 2 on this side. Take a screwdriver and pry that up. All right. That'll separate the support from the radiator. You can pull it forward. All right. Now to get that right there, go ahead and just push your screw. It's pretty simple. Get it through there. Push it through. A little bit hard at one hand. Alright, see how that is? There you go. So then you can move that out of the way, and you're left with that. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and take our fan off. I think I might go ahead and take the bumper off too. Well, I don't need to really take the bumper off because I can get to everything, I think, without taking that bumper cover off. But I do remember we dropped some screws over here, so we'll go through and fish those up before we put this back together. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove these supports here, remove this fan here, and we're going to get this right here loose. All right. Okay, so now that we have that top bracket off, the headlights out, we can start removing these assemblies here. The fan assembly, that looks like it's attached with a 10 millimeter. That's attached to the radiator, so we'll take that loose from the radiator there. Pull the whole assembly loose. I'll need another tool to, oh, I could do it right here. All right. I'll leave the bracket on. Kind of remove the bracket too. All right, so, and then down at the bottom, if you take an extension, you can go through and hit that 10 millimeter and that 10 millimeter there, and then this fan assembly will come up. Of course, you will have to unplug it also. As you can see, there's the wiring harness for it there. All that, you can unplug it. You can unplug it right there. All right. So, pretty simple. In fact, we'll go ahead and unplug it since we're getting ready to take it out. I'll take all this stuff apart, and then we'll come back and finish filming because it's kind of hard to undo this stuff with one hand. Next step, you want to remove this screw here. Remove that bracket there and the screw there. That way you can pull your radiator. You can pull this forward from the radiator. See, they've got it zip tied there. I'm gonna have to cut that zip tie out of the way. Some colors here. Interesting, funny tidbit story. My toolbox fell over the other day. So, quick note to you all out there with toolboxes. Yeah, not really funny, but anyway. My toolbox fell over the other day. This is the AC condenser. Alright, now you can remove this if you want to, but if you remove this, just beware that you're going to have to evacuate all of your Freon, all of your Freon. Yeah, exactly. That's not cheap these days. And then, of course, once you remove all your Freon, you're going to have to put it back if you want your air conditioner to work. But if you take this loose, all right, take this shroud off of here. I'm going to take this screw out of here. I'll take these two screws out here, and then this plastic will come loose right here. You can actually just, these hoses are flexible here, you can actually just swing it out the way. Alright, so let me get this loose and I'll show you what I'm talking about, because I don't want to have to, raise the bill on this thing by, having to add more Freon to it and going through the AC process. Alright, see how I have that folded up, and all you do is just bring it back and basically fold it up. Wow, found a socket. Somebody lost that. Actually, it might be mine from the last time I worked on this vehicle for the guy. We did an alternator not too long ago and some other stuff on this. But anyway, next thing you want to do is remove this. All right, you don't have to remove it from the bracket. Just remove the bracket from here with your Torx head screw, and this will actually fold up out of the way too. So let me get that out of the way, and I'll show you what we're talking about. Couldn't find my head for my gun, so I'm gonna have to do these by hand, but it's no problem. They don't have too many screws. Now we have that out of the way, cooler out of the way. We're gonna take the intercooler off. All right, you see that bolt there? That's a 10 millimeter, and then over here on the side, it's a flathead screwdriver. Or you can actually use, I think it's an 8 millimeter on that side. I'll do some. If you don't have a flathead screwdriver. You know, you can undo it with a screwdriver. I just do that side. I just screw this side, 10 millimeter, and then you just pull that forward. So let me get that loose, and then I'll pull that forward and show you what we're looking at. Alright, so now that that's loose, we can pull that forward. Remember, don't lose your screws. That's not even an actual factory screw, it looks like something. It's already been in there. Alright, I'm gonna have to stop recording while I pull this thing out, because it's, oh, there's a screw at the bottom. Right there. See the screw at the bottom there. There's one somewhere at the bottom over here too. Alright, let me get that out and then we'll proceed. So, the trickiest one is this screw here. See that screw right there? It's down inside that plastic. Well, that's down there at the bottom, okay? That hole right there. So, come over here on this side, this piece is already broke, but you still have that plastic over it. So if you take like a 10 millimeter on like an electric ratchet or something, or if you don't have electric ratchets, you can do it by hand. Just the main thing is you need to have something to go in there deep enough to get that bolt. And then once you get that bolt, then you can pull it forward and pull it off. See, it's coming off there. I need to get the other side. I can pull that thing on off and take it out. So we'll get this loose and we'll take that out and we'll proceed with our job. Okay, now that we have our intercooler removed out the way, you just have the radiator. And as you can see, you'll need to remove the upper radiator hose here. Alright, with that bolt there, your flathead screwdriver again. Remove this hose for your bypass tank. And at the bottom, you'll see if you lift up that air hose again, where we were before, you can see the, there it is, the hose for the bottom side of the light. You have bottom hose for that right there, and then you can pull the whole radiator out, and then that'll give you direct access to the fan and everything else, and then we'll proceed from there. Okay, so now we're going to take the radiator out. Notice I already disconnected everything. You'll need to disconnect your transmission lines here, your coolant line there at the bottom. Over here you'll need to remove here, remove the hose here. Along the bottom there's a hose that goes around there, but you can unsnap the clips and pull that forward. At the top, the trickiest thing about this part is at the top, this little connector here. If you just twist it, this little connector here, if you just twist it that way and pull it up out of the hole, sometimes trying to get it disconnected would be a little rough. And once we have that done, you can pull the whole radiator assembly up out of the car. So we're going to pull that up out of the car, and that gives us access to our fan here. So you could leave it in the car if you think you have enough room, but you may as well take it out since you went through the trouble of removing everything. Take it out, and that way it gives you more space. We'll take it out, and then we'll come back to filming. Okay, the fan and the fan clutch are held on pretty simple by one bolt in the center. Use a 5/16 Allen head. You can pull that right on out. All right, once you pull it out, then you just work it off, and it'll come right off. And there behind that, voila, the water pump. All right, so at this point, what we'll do is we'll take our belt off from the belt tensioner there, release the tension on the belt, and then that'll give us access to it. But before we do that, you see these, you'll need to remove these. I recommend taking these off before you take the belt tensioner off, because as long as you have the tension on there, that'll hold that steady for you, and it makes it easier when taking those off. Also, if you use an impact, then the torque will go more in there, and it'll actually pull that out instead of spinning it around. So when you try to do it by hand, it'll try to spin around, but if you use a torque, it gives you impact. It gives you direct torque on the head of the bolt, and it'll pull it on out. So I'm going to remove those, remove the belt, and then we'll come back to replacing the pump. What I was talking about with the Torx wrench here. So here we have the Torx wrench, and you see, well, impact wrench rather, with the Torx head. I'll stick it in there and watch. It just pulls the screw right on out without spinning that around. Now that I have the screws out of there, now I'll release the tension on the belt, which is pretty simple. You'll stick. You can either do it one of two ways. You can put the socket on there and hold that, or you can put an Allen wrench in there and do it that way. All right. So, but actually, with that on there, I can pull this off. There we go. That'll just come right on off like so. And you'll pull your pulley off, and now you have full access to your water pump. Now, look at that. You see that right there? See how that's spinning? It's spinning around. That's spinning real free, ain't it? Uh-huh. Yeah, that's about to wear out. See how that was spinning? Spinning real good and free. Not making any noise yet, but look at that. You got some extra play in there too. See that? A little extra play in there. Okay. So while you have these off, I'm going to recommend that you go ahead and replace these two pulleys because they're cheap. They're really cheap. But if this thing breaks down on you on the road, and that cheap pulley right there can be quite expensive job to replace. All right, and you've got to remove this pulley anyway to get to the pump bolts. You see there's the pump bolts there. The rest of this job is pretty simple, self-explanatory. It's like any other water pump job, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and pull that off, and then, oh, wow, I got my fingers on the lens, excuse me. We'll go ahead and get that water pump pulled off, and you will need the Torx socket on that to pull that off, all right? And then we'll get back to it, and we'll finish up. Alright, the last final step of this job is, of course, swapping the water pump out. Now that we're actually down to it, you're going to need two sockets to get that water pump off. You're going to need a what's that number right there? An E10 and an E12. Alright, because you've got two different size bolts on there. Alright, you see there how it's got that 6 points in there. So whenever I have one that has like different size, I've also cleaned this off a little bit so we can see a little better. Whenever I have one like this, what I like to do with different size bolts, okay, this is pretty easy. You see the smaller ones are right around here and the big ones are on the side. But a quick easy method that you can do is when you have the new pump, okay, you sit the new pump out the way that, you know, it would go into the vehicle, and as you take the screws out of the old pump, place them in the holes that they come out of. So for instance, I would take this screw out here, all right, and then I would match it up and put it in that hole there, okay, because that's where it is on that pump. So the rest of this is pretty simple. On the end here, you've got two more bolts that you have to get this off right here. See that right there? Get that off. But once you remove the pump, you can actually pull this forward, and when you pull this forward, you'll be able to access those two bolts there to get that pump on off. Those would be the last bolts you pull off. And if you have trouble with that, then you go on down that pipe there and you can pull the bolt there, and there's another bolt there that you pull off for this so that you can get in there. So either way that you prefer to do it. And swapping the pump out, you want to get some silicone on this gasket, you know, and put some silicone on that gasket as well. You know, you don't want to stretch it on there, but just, you know, put it on there sparingly. You know, don't put too much, but just a nice coating on both sides. And then put the pump on reverse that you took it off. Don't over tighten the bolts. For those of you who are in the torque specs and things like that, then of course look that up, Google it. I can't remember the exact specs, so I haven't looked it up yet. For those of you who have been doing this for years and don't look at torque specs, you know what to do. Don't over tighten it, just evenly tighten your bolts, and you should be good to go. Refill your car with antifreeze and put everything back. Everything goes back to reverse in which it was taken off. So once you do that, put your new antifreeze in there and you should be good to go. So we're going to swap this pump out, and then once we get the new one on, I'll let you see what that looks like. That's Oh yeah. And again, I tell you, it's so much easier when you have these guns. These impact guns really make it fast and easy. You can actually do it kind of one-handed here. And there's a light on it. See how this one is small, that one's big. Small. 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 Now, look at this. This is a sign of how you can tell that this was the water pump. Alright. Someone asked me earlier, how do you know? Well, of course, well, your vehicle's dripping water. Other than that, how you know it's coming from the water pump. It's because the water pump has what's on it. It's called a weep hole. You see up under there. That is the weep hole, so that that's the weep hole, so that you can be alerted that, hey, that's the weep hole, so that you can be alerted that, hey, your battery is I just got a notification from my phone, battery going low. That's the weep hole to let you know that your water pump is going out. All right, so I gotta plug my phone and charge this bad boy up. There it is there. You can see there's a hole that actually, it drips down and then comes out there. And there's also one on the top of that pump as well. All right, we're gonna put this thing together and get this thing behind and out of my hair. If you have any questions or comments, please post, chat, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. Thanks for watching. And well, that's it. Please subscribe. Okay, we're going to take the bolt out. We got that one loose. All right, see where it goes there. It goes right here. All right. I haven't got this out yet because it's going to take the larger socket. But I do have that one loose. That one was right there. I like you get the picture of what's going on there. So once you pull that pump off, then you can transfer those old bolts back onto the bolts over to the new pump. You can transfer the bolts from the new pump over to the old pump, and that'll still be your template guide. Also, once you take it off, clean your faces up. If you have any leftover gasket material, and that way it'll seal a lot better when you go to put it back. All right, if you have any questions or comments, please post, chat, subscribe. Again, thanks for watching. Once I take all these screws out, oh yeah, and there's one right there. No, right there. There's one right there, which is the bigger one. And I got that one there. Right there. Okay. All right, we'll get this thing right together, and then I can go eat my dinner. Until next time, YouTube, if you have any questions, please post, chat, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Oh yeah, last tidbit, once you remove those screws, then you can pull that pump forward and you'll be able to have access to that there. Okay, if you can't, then there's a bolt at the bottom of the alternator. All right, you'll loosen that one bolt at the bottom of the alternator just enough so that that will give you a little bit of play to let this thing slide forward. All right, I would recommend you remove the hose at the top there because it's easier to get to. All right, it's easier to get to. And then you just slide that off. And then of course, once you switch it back, then you just go back with that hose. All right, so that's pretty much it. I'm not sure what size that is. That's probably a T15 or something. We'll find out. So when I started this video, I couldn't find my socket, so I just went and bought a whole nother kit of these, and I didn't really pay attention to it. Just did I needed it and I wanted it, so it's already nice and laid out. The time I was losing looking for my tools, I could save just by getting another one. All right, so that is that's a T30 on the end there. All right, so once you pop those two T30s off, then that pump will fall down. Okay. And as you see, it does have the old gasket on there. So again, put your new gasket, new pump, put it back together, and you should be good and running. All right, as I said before, if you have any questions, please post, chat, subscribe, and again, thanks for watching, YouTube. Have a great night. Okay, and finally on this job, remember in the beginning I said it needed a fan clutch, and That was locked up, and as you see, when we take it off and look from the back side, it's only got 1, 2, 3, 4, what's that, 5, 6, 7 ball bearings, and there's supposed to be ball bearings all the way around there. So that's why that's locked up on there. And again, that's going to cause you to lose fuel economy because you're constantly spinning the fan. This is the new replacement unit here. Looks a lot better. It's got the outer shroud. One other thing that I noticed on this particular vehicle, this pulley right here, and I mean, they got all their money out of it. And actually, that's that pulley there. You see how far it's worn down there. So, you know, these two pulleys are actually the same. So if you see it, it's different, and it's supposed to be the same. This pulley is different here. And actually, you can get a metal version of this pulley too, come to find out. So if you like a metal pulley, metal tensioner, which would hold up better. Actually got that, and we're going to put that metal one on there because that metal is going to last the customer a lot longer. So that's that pulley there. So that way you'll have a much better job. I'm not crazy about, I hate plastic pulleys, you know, that one I just showed you, you see how it was, you know, worn down like that. So we'll put this metal one on there, and that way this one won't wear out. And you know, you want this one to stand up because this is the tensioner pulley. If that thing starts wearing out, then of course you already know you're not going to hold tension on your belt, and it's going to cause other problems. So go ahead and replace that with the metal one. That's an upgraded pulley for what they have. I don't know if they make metal ones of these here. So all right, I'm going to get this thing back together and get it back to the owner and call it a night. If you have any questions or comments, please post, chat, subscribe. Thanks for watching. All right, one last thing I want to show you with the fan on. Now, you'll notice it spins around. Okay, not freely as opposed to the other one. Got the belt on there. You see the belt's tight. You see that pulley back there is not spinning. So if you have a fan clutch and it doesn't spin when you turn it like that, freely, you know, there's going to be some resistance there. But if you have one that is locked up like this one was in the beginning, then that lets you know you need to replace your fan clutch. This is pretty neat because it comes with the fan and the clutch already assembled. Looks like it's a better made part too. All right, I think that's all. Anything else I want to show you? The rest is pretty simple, just putting back reverse of what we took off. So I'm gonna focus on this real quick so I can get this done. All right, thanks for watching.